I need to locate this module. We got to take some interior parts apart. So that's the plan now. Oh, this is really wet too in here, man.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of water here.
This is really, really bad. All right, I'm gonna pull this side panel off over here. It's nice that they make these come off real easy. So there's your motor. The motor we were talking about before, the other 6-pin, that's this guy right here. This is that's your electric motor that's gonna move the hinge. So if you can get down lower, I'm gonna lower the deck lid and you're gonna watch this rod move. All right, so see this rod, this piece. So that's the motor. And then most likely, this is gonna be my module for this thing, either that or this one of the two, either this one or this one is gonna be my module. This one has a little speaker on it, and it does show a speaker on the diagram as far as this system goes. It has a little chime for when the deck lid opens and closes. And so this is probably my module for the system, which is nice. It's right in the open. Something else I see right away, you see the scuff marks on the paint and then the ground wire for this. And so that tells me that someone was back here playing and maybe trying to get this system to work previous to us. And they tried to clean the ground up. So yeah, but I think this might be my module, maybe, which is great, nice and easy to get to. We can do some real nice quick tests on this, but I just want to confirm that this is my module. We're going to go by color. And look at the moisture. See if you can get a shot up in here above where the module sits. Massive amounts of moisture, even way up high up in here. So this is not going to be just a simple draw. We have a no-com in this system. No way I'm going to say, oh, we just need to replace this because they go bad. And, you know, our friend told us that they go bad and, you know, it was unplugged. And, yeah, no. This has just changed on us to a module system that's not communicating. At least for what we're doing here, the module's easy to get to and makes it easy to film. It gets hard sometimes when these modules are located up under the dash, and it makes filming difficult. All right, so just looking at my diagram here, pin 1. So how many connectors we have? 1, 2 connectors, good. We have 2 connectors here. Diagram shows 2, and then pin 1 on the C417-4A connector is black with a violet. So I'm just gonna look at the corners and hoping to see a black with a violet wire. Black and violet, right there, big fat wire. That is a main ground. And then right next to that should be a brown wire. Yep, right there is brown. Right next to that should be a gray with a brown. There's a gray with a brown. We have the right module. Wiring sequencing is critical sometimes. Like we can, you know, I was having trouble finding location of this module. That is my module. And the other clue too for me was when I was looking at the OEM diagram, it did show a little chime on here. Let's see if I can show it to you on this one. Yeah, see your power deck lid chime, violet, brown, and gray and violet. So it's that guy. And on the chime itself is exactly those colors. So I got a violet, brown, and gray with a violet. Okay, that's my module. So main powers and grounds is what I'm interested in first on this thing. And I want to check the power feed first. It's a violet red coming in, big heavy gauge violet red wire. I don't remember if that was the same color from the front or not, but I'm just going to the ground that's cleaned up from someone else, and I'm just back prepping that. And we'll go to our scope multimeter, change my scales. It buried the scale here, so that's a good sign that we have voltage. And drop this down to make sure we're not missing anything. Yeah, 11.8 volts. So this battery's weak right now. We should probably have a maintainer on it. I'm gonna do that because as we're going here, we'll just watch it. If it drops down to 11.5, I'll put a charger on it. So 11.8. So I'm grounded here already, and then to do a voltage drop test on the ground, I know that ground is good because of my voltage reading. In fact, I'm gonna just move it a little bit, make sure we don't have, okay, I'm comfortable with that. Just making sure we don't have corrosion or whatever on my connection. And then I'm just moving over to the ground pin, and we have 0.01, so there's no issue with the main feed and the main ground to this module. I wonder if it's full of water. I wouldn't be surprised if it is. There's so much water in here, yeah. So that's step one. We have a no comm with this module. Step two is let's make sure we don't have any other powers and grounds. We checked that ground and we checked that power so far. I'm just looking, yep, pin 9, there's a vehicle battery power on 9, and that is a yellow with a red on the same connector right there. Yellow, red. We want to have battery voltage on that guy. There it is. So we're good on that one too. Go down the line here. Chime, power close switch, striker, and that's it. So the rest of that is all inputs and outputs. And then we have our medium speed CAN, that's MS CAN, CAN negative, and CAN positive. We can look at signals there, but we have to remember when we're doing CAN diagnostics that just because I have a CAN signal here doesn't mean that that's coming from that module. Remember, CAN networks, we're sending and receiving all of the modules. So we definitely want to see CAN signals here, but when we see them, we can't say that they're coming from this module. Hope that makes sense. I want to check those real quick. 22 and 23, that's on the other connector, and it's violet, brown, and violet. So violet with a brown. Need to pull some of this tape back. Got your knife on you, Caleb? All right, so most likely, see how those two are in their own harness by themselves? That's probably my two CAN wires, because they use twisted pairs. Is that violet and brown? Sure as hell does not look like, it looks like gray with a violet. That is not it. 24 is gray. There's a gray wire there. 23 is violet, so that's one of them right there. 22 shows violet brown. Oh, I'm sorry. It's the gray and the violet. I was looking, that's the Chime. Dumbass. That's the Chime. So that's not it. I was wrong. My two CAN wires are these two guys right here. It's not violet, brown, and violet. It's gray and violet. These two wires right here are my CAN network. Those two guys. So the first one, gray. Let's change our time bases. We'll peak detect that. Drop this down to 5 volts. Give you guys a good picture here. That looks like a pretty standard looking CAN waveform. Yeah, 2.5 to 3.5. You know, the large spike at the end is end of sequence or end of report. So we do have communication on that wire. And then moving over to this one, there is a standard 1.5 to 2.5 CAN signal. These look good. Like, I have communication. There's no reason this module shouldn't be talking to me. Go back to my scanner. I'm gonna retry. Now that I've messed with it, yeah, it's not talking. So what I want to do now, we check powers, grounds, no communication here. I want to turn my key off and unplug this thing and look for water intrusion. Oh, that's what I'm gonna do now. Okay, I'm plugging the Chime. Just seeing if it's wet. It's not wet in that connector. Neato. Wish all modules were like this easy to pull apart. Except I can't get them out of there. I see no water in there. Nope. Yeah, I can't totally trust no comms with scan tools, especially aftermarket ones. You definitely would not want to condemn this module just because it doesn't talk to my scanner. But the fact that nothing works too is a problem. Let's see if it will talk to us now. Sometimes unplug and plug back in. Oh, you know what I could show you while we have this unplugged is those same two CAN wires. Here, I'll just unplug both for argument purposes. I want to show you guys the same CAN signals with that unplugged. So a module's unplugged. This is the gray wire. That's your CAN high. So notice the same CAN signals are there even with the module unplugged. And so a lot of people will look at that, and I myself included when I first started looking at CAN systems and saying, well, I have a signal there, that means that module's communicating. It does not. It does not. You can see that same waveform unplugged. Where's these signals coming from? It's coming from the network. That was the gray. Here's the purple. CAN high, CAN low. Now you could, analyze them, compare signals, plugged in, unplugged, things like that, but I'm not going that route because there's variables with that too, is you need this module to be doing something, maybe for that message to change. So the point I'm trying to make really with that, and yes, I have the key on, I don't care. It's not an airbag module. Holy shit. The fact that we have communication signals back here doesn't tell us that that module is communicating. Let's see if we can try talking to this. And now that I unplugged it, plugged it back in. No, it's still not talking to me. The thing about this though, let's get a shot of this trunk light here, Caleb, because I'm gonna take my screwdriver and simulate up here real quick first. I'm gonna simulate the trunk closing, right? And then opening. Watch the trunk light too now. See, the trunk light is functioning, right? That's the deck lid switch. And so that's part of this module. So there are things that are still working in this module. I'm pretty sure that deck lid, let's go back to the diagram. I have to make sure I didn't miss a main power ground too, but luggage compartment lid release switch, could be that one. Ooh, that goes to the BCM. BCM's involved here directly. Luggage compartment, a jar switch. That's a signal that's sent to the BCM. But the one that I just messed with, I don't know if that's the lid release switch or not. What else can I do? Don't want to call this module as being bad. Just based on a no-com, let's do some sensor checks. Luggage compartment light. Yeah, so that light isn't even on here. So what I'm thinking about right now, and I can't prove it, is that switch for the deck lid might be a separate one from this module, and it's indicating directly to the BCM. That's if it's the luggage compartment lid release switch. If it's that one, if you look at that, it splits. That input, it goes to the liftgate rear gate trunk module, and then it also goes to the BCM. So it's a direct input to two different modules, and then that may indicate like the rear light, the lighting system is not going to be part of this, and the fact that the lights react to that, I hope that's making sense. So I said previously that indicates that this module is functional in some way. In other words, that light coming on and off says that module is doing something. It may not. If that is in fact the luggage compartment lid release switch that I'm messing with up there, that directly feeds the BCM, and the BCM's reacting and turning the interior lights on and off. Does that make sense, Caleb? That doesn't tell me that this module's alive. So what else can I show you? I think switch inputs. We're gonna have a bunch of 12 volt pull down or pull up type circuits. Let's get some voltage readings on this one. It's easy to get to. Just gently front probing these. I'm not stuffing the pin in there. 0, 0, 0, 0, and 0. And that'd be this guy. And we have striker up switch signal, striker down switch signal. It has a ground, so we don't know what kind of switch input that is, whether pull up or pull down. Let's see, presented direction, cinch direction. So that looks like that part of it. So that looks like the output side. Sorry about the highlights here. This isn't working like properly. 1 and 2 look like the motor function, and then 3 and 5 would be the input signals. Those were all zeros, and that was unplugged. They were zeros. My guess is they should be pull down design circuits because you have an external ground too. I don't know that for sure, but that's showing me no voltage there is a problem. Let's see what this one shows. And that's going to be that guy back there. Yeah, we have some sensor 1, 2, and power and ground. I want to see what those guys look like. It looks like maybe some type of potentiometer. The fact you have a sensor, ground, power, and then 2 different signals, some type of pot signal, and then that would be at this connector right here. Let's unplug this guy. And then I'm just going to kind of go down the line here. Let's see what we have. We'll go on the back side so we know what we're stabbing into. And I'm not stabbing the wires, wrong term, just connected to. So that looks like green with a blue. Let me see what we have before we like spit out all the colors and where I'm connected. That is 0, 0, 0. Hey, there's a 0.5 volt, 0, and 0. So we have one wire that shows a 0.5 volt, which is looks like a light green and an orange. The rest of them are all zeros. Oh, that 0.5 volt was coming from my body. That's 0 too. Look, watch when I touch it. So don't touch the pin. So 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Big freaking fat goose egg on all those. I'm feeling more comfortable about putting a module in this. The only thing about where we are now is we don't know the condition of the outputs. So there could be the need for this guy still too if this is a high failure item. But with a module being dead, I'm not going to make a proper call on that. Because I don't know, I don't want to give it a power and ground myself because there's not enough information in this system to make me feel comfortable doing that. The last thing I want to do is cook a good component. But yeah, I got nothing on these. All right, this is definitely a pull down design. Let's see if we can find this guy. This is a luggage compartment lid rear control. It's a switch, and where would that switch be? That's the problem. Because I could check for voltage on that. Well, let's just do it at the module. It's a brown and a blue, pin 11. Same connector that our CAN wires were on. There's a brown blue right there. And then there'd be a space. And then a gray with a violet tracer. Yep, that's it. So that's a switch input right there. That's a pull down design. For more information on pull up and pull down circuitry, I'm going to refer you guys to my chapter 2 material, both on ScannerDanner Premium and in my book. I got nothing on that guy. Now it would help to know like the position of that switch. I don't know, and I don't know where that switch lives. So that would be helpful to verify that. So I'm talking about this guy right here, luggage compartment lid rear control switch. So it's a lid switch, and it's a 2-pin switch by itself. I do not believe it's this one, unless that's the, oh, it's the control switch. That's this guy. That'd be this guy right here. Most likely that's it. Now we can pull that, we'll pull this and make sure our colors. But when I flip this switch, if you look at the diagram, the module is going to provide voltage on the brown and blue wire that we have 0 volts on right now. That's where I'm connected, right? 0 volts. That module provides a low voltage source through a resistor, and then when the switch closes, it pulls the voltage down to ground. Now what we don't know is, when you have switches like this, am I closing the switch by pushing the button, or am I opening the switch by pushing the button? So again, chapter 2 material, but here's the thing. We should get a change when we hit this button. We should get a change. Watch the voltage. Hitting the switch, no change on that circuit whatsoever. If I go to a lower scale, can we maybe see it? Let's drop that to 500 millivolts. Yeah, we can. Let's change this to a longer time base. Let's go even higher. 5 seconds. You see it? I mean, it's not really there, right? But it is. Look at that. Here, let's AC couple that. And then turn peak detect off. Drop this down to 100 millivolts. Too much noise now. But am I on the right switch circuit? Yes, I am. This module's dead. I am 100% confident now that that module's dead. Given that we have main power feed is good, main ground, there's 2 power feeds, main ground is good, and none of my inputs have any voltage, including this final one, which is the deck lid control switch. This module's bad. And what was causing the draw and all that other stuff is really, in my opinion right now, irrelevant. This is known for failing this piece, but I can't troubleshoot the function of this with a faulty brain. And you hate to replace a brain when you have an output that you can't test, but if this output would have failed and shorted, it would have not taken out the entire module. So I have no input signals, no nothing. At this point, what I would want to do is beat on that a little bit. I'm serious. I'm going to. So let me turn AC coupling off. We'll change this back to a 20 volt because I believe this is going to be a 12 volt pull down design circuit. And I have no voltage there at all. Let's kind of maybe just do a twist. Dead, nothing. What else can I verify on this? Let's look at another input. Chime, power luggage sense. Yeah, all these circuits are dead. So when I checked up here at that connector, to be clear, if we weren't, that controls the motor here, that controls the rod that opens and closes the deck. With no voltage on anything on there. And if you notice, it has on the diagram here, it has sensor power on pin 2, right? Sensor ground, and then 2 signals, and then motor controls. Zeros across the board. 0 on this switch. Zeros across the board on this one on the diagram, which is this guy right here. Nothing. I believe the deck lid, this light is signaling the BCM, so the one up here that we showed when we moved this switch, and then we showed the trunk light going on and off as I move that switch. I believe again that is because the BCM is involved with the lighting, not this module. This module's dead. All right, we got one more we can check, Caleb. Luggage compartment lid latch. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. That's the one we just checked. This guy. Hold on, let me get rid of all the highlights. I was off a little bit in my understanding of the system. The one that we just checked was this luggage compartment lid latch switch. And it says ajar, and then it's got 2 grounds. But notice it says interior lights. So the interior lights are physically going to this switch. And that's why we have interior lights. So I was a little off on saying the BCM was involved with that light. It's still maybe, I don't know the interior light design. I'm sure it's module controlled, but it goes to the interior light system, that wire for that switch. And so there's another wire, it's yellow and orange, which looks to me like another pull down design circuit. And that yellow orange wire would go to our module we're worried about. And, you know, again, we could check that. There's not going to be voltage there either. And that's not going to, I'm not pulling this apart to check that because that's not going to change my direction. This module is just, it's dead. Now, there's one more piece, man. I just got to make sure that I didn't miss a main power and ground. So we definitely checked that ground. Let's make everyone happy again. I am connected to the body here. And when you check grounds and do ground to ground voltage drop testing, you know, we could potentially have a bad ground back here in the whole car. And so really that's not a good ground. I'm not going to the battery, but that's why I always check power feeds first. So our power feed is this yellow, red, and then on pin 9, and then violet red on pin 4. That's why I always check the powers first, because if I'm checking my power feed and I have good power, which you can see I do, our voltage is dropping 11.4, our battery's getting weaker, but I know at least this ground is good enough, difference in polarity, that I can now trust a ground to ground voltage drop test, which is this guy, which is 0 volts. So some people would look at that and they'd want to run a new ground, or they'd want to do resistance measurements on the ground. It is not necessary. If this ground is bad or open, you will read high voltage on that wire doing a ground to ground test. If I would unbolt this, and then clip my lead onto the housing, we would see 11 volts on that ground. That ground is fine. And then the only other feed is this one. It's yellow and red. You see I got voltage there too. That's all I'm seeing. I'm seeing 2 power feeds on the diagram and 1 main ground. Let's just make sure. Ground, close, motor, vehicle battery, open, close, master switch, front luggage compartment, open, close switch. That's another pull down design circuit up here. Okay, yeah. So let me call Danner. He needs to get this module first. We should be able to program it and do whatever we need to do if it needs to be programmed. And then hopefully we'll be able to sell the job and do the rest of this. As far as me worrying about a parasitic drain when we have this going on, I mean, this could explain the intermittent nature of things. There was one other piece here and I needed to make sure my key was still on. It is on. That could have been bad, but there's an ignition feed we'd be missing with the key off. Key is off. I guess we could try to pull this module apart. I mean, we did already, but now that I'm making the call on a faulty module, maybe we see if we can see something in here. Just so we're clear, as you guys are watching me mess with this module, we are calling this a bad module, okay? Whether or not it fixes the intermittent parasitic drain is up for debate, but this module is definitely faulty, and anything that I do in here is of really no significance, okay? But I should be able to pull this out, and I marked my pins. So main feed there, 4th one in. It'll be a little bit more difficult when I pull it out, but I want to really try to follow the paths. So it was main ground is this guy. I'm just marking this for my own eye so I can follow the circuits. It's really going to be tough for you to follow on the camera. And then it was 4th pin over from there. That's your main feed. And then on the other side, it's the third pin in here. It's this guy's another feed. So really want to look closely. Does this have water? This looks like maybe it had water in it. I don't want to make that call. So, but what I am looking for is like maybe a cracked solder joint or something. Does that look like maybe it had moisture on that?
Like up there?
Yeah.
I don't know, a little bit maybe, but...
Let me get my magnifying glass. Yeah, I don't really see any solder joint issues. It does not smell burnt. Those definitely got hot. I almost want to hit these with my soldering iron, but those are just hot because I mean those are circuits that carry a lot of current, so I don't know that that's necessarily a problem. Okay, I'm gonna just make the call here, Caleb.
All right,
There's nothing I can do with this.
get it on you.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice.
All right, well, Danner is not available, but that is the call. I'm going to talk to him. It'll be off camera. I'm hoping that we are able to sell this job. I don't know what the customer's going to want to do with the parasitic drain. I think maybe leaving this module unplugged would really be the answer for that. If in fact our problem is back here for the drain, we still don't know. But to get this power trunk system working properly again, brain is dead. So that's the call on this. I'm hoping for a follow-up. We shall see. Either way, I know you guys learned some stuff from this. Caleb, thanks for being with me. If you guys want more information and more training, come visit my website. It's ScannerDanner.com. And I have a paid portion of the site. It's called ScannerDanner Premium, where I'm inviting you into my classroom at Rosedale Technical College. And there's probably, to date, it is the beginning of March 2020. There's about 420 training videos on there and counting. We're adding to that all the time. One I can suggest for you guys is my communication playlist, No-Com playlist, where you can learn more about the CAN network stuff that I was talking about. Another one would be, like I said, Chapter 2, switch inputs, and Chapter 3, output controls. All of that centralized around what we did here today. So again, thank you guys so much. Hoping for a follow-up. No promises. We'll see what the customer wants to do. See you guys next time.